Hey, welcome to another Tuesday with some curl development. Let me see here. I'm starting out a little bit slow so that more people can join if they want to see the live stream. So, yeah, last week I did a special sort of presentation stream about HTTP3 in curl. So if you want to understand a little bit about HTTP3 and quiche and how we do it in curl, you should check it out. I did a lot of talk about HTTP3 and quiche in general in the beginning, and then I dove into how to do it with curl and a little bit how it works in curl and so on. But HTTP3 is a little bit of a different beast than HTTP 1 and 2 then, obviously, and it doesn't really work the way the others do. So a bunch of things has to be fixed properly, or I mean done in the H3 backend in curl. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. First, let me switch over to this browser here, and I created, this is the curl GitHub repo, and I created a wiki page called HTTP3. It's not much, but it basically talks about the state of the HTTP3 implementation in curl. So HTTP3, there I'm linking to the documentation in the source code. So if you want to build, this is the instructions. They're fairly detailed, and I think they should work. And I'll appreciate bug reports or whatever if you can't make it work. And I also created a little list with known HTTP3 servers that you can check out. Source. Okay, right. So here are a bunch of servers, and they're not linked because they are HTTP3 servers, so you can go through a list and talk to them with curl if you want to. Also a little column here if they run alt service on that server. Most of them don't, some of them do, and here are the different implementations of them, just for your information. And here's the little list what still doesn't work in HTTP3 in curl, and particularly this is where I intend to get into today, or was planning to at least. Let's see where we end up in this regard. So basically callback based HTTP request bodies in curl. With libcurl you can, the regular HTTP post, you can do it two ways with the API. You can either just give libcurl a pointer and say basically here's a buffer of data, send that over in the request body, the style you do with a normal post, and curl will send it, and you do that with the, maybe I should just show you, it's called curl.post fields. It's a bit of a strange name, but still. If you use that, you just give it a pointer to a string. And by the way, if you have questions or anything, interrupt me or ask in the Twitch chat. It's not on screen here right now, but I have it on my screen. So right, so post fields is how you, this is the most simple way, basic way to do a post with curl. You just give it a pointer and it'll post it. So basically here's the little example code. You just give it a URL. Oh right, you can actually set the length separately, and then you give it a pointer to data to send. If you don't specify the length, it'll do figure out the length of the string there by itself. But you don't have to set a string, you can actually send binary data, so strlen is not always the correct way to figure out the length, so you can set it separately. So that's the easy way. And looking at the looking at the quiche backend, which is where I'm going to start this morning. So here's the curl source code on the right. Let me see, here's the NGTC. So there are two HTTP3 backends, one for the quiche library and one for the NGTCP2 library. And I'm going to focus on the quiche to start with, and I'm going to rebuild my code. I have prepared configure lines, like I will show you. This is my configure line that I use for development to rebuild curl to build with quiche, the quiche library, and enable alt service and little other things. I point out the boring SSL build that I have as well. So if I then, instead of just viewing it, run it, just enable quiche for my curl build. Takes a little while. It's my machine is not the fastest. It's several years old by now, but it's still quite okay actually. As long as you don't have to rerun configure many times. So I can just check this line, configure is complete, and then it says on this line HTTP3 support enabled, and it is enabled with quiche. On the line above I can see HTTP2 is also enabled with NGHTTP2. So enabled, and alt service also enabled in case I want to use that. So I'll just build everything. I'm going to use less cores to not interrupt the videos so much. You can see some compiler warnings up here on pausing. These are warnings in my in the curl OpenSSL backend, because this is built with boring SSL, and boring SSL subtly changed their API for a few of the functions, and our code hasn't been adopted properly, so that it actually causes some compiler errors or warnings for some of the function invokes that we do. I should fix that. Maybe I could take a look at that if we get around to it. So yeah, so if you want to see everything about HTTP3, then of course I have this little. If you want to go the long route for HTTP3, you go to this page, daniel.hex.se, HTTP3 explained, as you can see at the top, and that's my book about it. It's not really a book, but more of a document, and here you can get it in a few different languages. You can get the web version, PDF version, or an ebook version. So yeah, get your preferred language, and here's this thing here is a YouTube video, a 1-hour presentation about HTTP3. And if you rather go and watch what I talked about last week, you can go to YouTube, to my YouTube channel, and see the HTTP3 in curl presentation here that I did last week. It's very meta here because I can show a video of myself on video. Yeah. And that is a 2-hour video about HTTP3 and HTTP3 in curl in particular. Lots of specific details. But today then I'm going to get into using quiche to fix my HTTP3 post. Right, I was talking about how to do post with libcurl, right? So this is the simple version. You specify a pointer to libcurl, Or you can actually do it another way. And if you, for example, if you want to upload a 2 gigabyte file with a HTTP put, you don't want to point to a buffer containing that 2 gigabyte thing. You rather just make sure that we can upload things in a streaming manner, right? So once we can feed the library with data as we go along, right? So, and we do that by using the callback method. So basically you set this function, the call up read function, and it is from the libcurls view. And now is a complicated question on Twitch. I think the Twitch chat is visible here. I don't think that is a question that I'm going to try to answer right now. It seems complicated. How slow would you say a page load has to get before you consider it down? Yeah, that's how long is a string? Difficult question. So in this callback method, so if you write an application, you set up a callback, and like in this example, you write a callback function like this. This is just an example, of course. It's a very basic. And when you write your code, you set up your options. You tell curl to read from this function and pass on this pointer. This is to libcurl just a private pointer that it passes on to the callback. And there's an example of this. Here are all the libcurl examples on the curl site. There are quite a few by now. I think there were over 100 of them. So yeah, I can really just advise you to check them out if you ever want to use libcurl. And I believe there's one called post something callback. Post callback. So here's the example doing HTTP post with a callback. So just a stupid post content, a silly callback. I call it silly because it's on purpose not optimized, I believe. Copy this much. Okay, so this is what it does. It sends a post to this URL, post place, read function, read data that it passes on to the callback. Verbose, I usually like setting verbose because it's more, when you run your test code, explains a little bit more what happens. And then you can do some other tricks. You can do the post with chunked encoding, or you can disable the expect header. So those are if-def here in the code, in case you want to do special magic, and then you just perform. So this example, I'm going to convert into a little test code, add HTTP3 to the mix, and run it. Oh, I also need a HTTP3 running server side, of course, that I can send this kind of post or a post to. And I actually have one. I'm just going to, oops. Now that's this obs bug that it drops. It forgets sometimes which browser to show. Because I was going to switch to on my screen, I'm checking out a different browser just because I wanted to get some input. So I'm going to see here because I have a chat going on with some other folks in private that I didn't want to show you off right that. So okay, back to my little term. Here's a endpoint, and I think this, I'm just going to try this out first with regular. Yep, this is one of these HTTP bin things running on Cloudflare, and this is good enough, I think. So I just sent a regular, it became HTTP2 post because it negotiated that, and yeah, this is what I sent, moo, and here's just the request coming back in some JSON format. So if I try to send another thing, Daniel test stuff, boom, yep. And we want to do that. If we do this with HTTP3, wrong curl, I want to run my own build. So yes, right, HTTP3, and it sent it, and I mean this is what it echoes back, right? So we know that it got it. Well, I think it's wrong to call them HTTP2 0 days. Yeah, there were a lot of HTTP2 server problems revealed the other day. Yeah, I noticed. And I also noticed that a lot of servers updated. But I'm not showing you the wrong stuff. That's why I don't actually need to use the studio mode in OBS, because for that, I mean. That's why I'm showing just the windows that I want to show on the screen. What you see on the screen here is not a mirror of my screen. You're just seeing windows, selected windows I popped into the stream. Never mind. Okay, so a normal, simple, basic post works fine here, as you can see. And this is the logic. In the middle of the screen here, you can see that when we send an HTTP request, it basically, this is how you send a request with quiche. So we set up the connection before, and we set up the HTTP3 stream, and here's how we send the actual request and request headers. And then if post fields is set and and it worked, we also send a body. And in this case, we know that post fields is the entire post, so we send it off, and I believe this argument, the last one, means set the fin bit on this stream, meaning telling the server we're done after this. So we send the request, we send the entire body, we're done, and if it just does this and successfully, and we mark this for our own purposes, where we have nothing left to send, kaboom, that works. And then it then ends up like this, my example here. So all in put then a long winding way to say that this sort of post works fine already. But this requires that we know the entire post beforehand. So I'm going to instead write a little example, and I have this example that I mentioned before, the post callback example. This makes a HTTP post. Of course, we can't do it. Let's post to the same. Cloudflare test endpoint. They have this cloudflarequick.com, so we know it's a test endpoint. So I think they won't get too upset if I send some data their way. So I'm using the read callback. If you use I'm going to just remove these if-defs because they just complicate things. I'm going to call it post3 callback. Just to Okay, I basically just changed the URL, and I'm going to force HTTP 3, you know, the way, or if you don't know, this is actually not how you will specify trying to remember what did I call it. HTTP 3, if you specify it like this, it will force itself to HTTP 3 to this host name and port, in this case then port 443 UDP, which is not how we're supposed to do it. Well, if you want to bootstrap, this won't fall back. If it doesn't support HTTP 3, we will get a connection error. But okay, so this is, once again then, this is, I'm going to maybe just also cut off my example header so to make it just smaller and easier. So now we have 84 lines of code. This makes set up post this URL, use this HTTP version, post from the callback, yeah, and verbose. So, and then I'm going to set up my build to actually also work so that I can build this to use my debug version of curl. So I have this little setup. Let's see if that's going to work. I'm not sure if it does. No. DSO. Okay, libquiche. There. So can we also run it? Debug it. Let's just see. No, right. Libquiche not found. So because I didn't build it with a hard-coded, I can do like this. I'm going to set up a little script to run it so that I don't have to do this. Maybe I'll just do this. Export. So I set up LD library path right now just to see that I can. So does it work now? Libquiche, yes, it finds libquiche. So okay, I'm just setting up LD library path for my debugging purposes. So because I have it in a, I built libquiche in a custom directory. Okay, so what happens if I run it? It shouldn't work very good, right? So no, it doesn't. Ha! Expect 100 continue. Seems like I shouldn't include at all. Over HTTP 3. So into curl. Expect expect 100. Right, as long as not No, less is not equal. It should be low because we use 30 for 3.0. So first, okay, I just want to make sure that it shouldn't send expect 100. Expect 100 is one of these HTTP 1.1 header things. And well, it's a complicated header. You commonly abused or misused or not used at all, or yeah, it's a sad state of that header, but still, we send it by default for HTTP 1.1. It shouldn't be sent for HTTP 3. Bam, no, now it's not there. But it shouldn't send chunked either. Chunked? Did I screw up my... Oh, it sends chunked when it doesn't have a size first. But it shouldn't be chunked for HTTP 3 either. Chunked. Right, if it's larger or equal, and then it shouldn't be. So okay. Again, maybe we get rid of the chunked one as well. Boom. Nope. If use 1.1 plus. Yep. Avoid chunked encoding. Rebuild. Try it out. Oops. Ooh. I guess like that. If it is more later than 1.1, but only if it's there, blah blah blah. Upload chunky. Okay, maybe. There. Now I think the post looks better. And again, as I explained in my HTTP 3 video, this looks like a regular old HTTP request, but it doesn't actually look like this over the wire. So this is HTTP 1.1 style, but over the wire, curl will convert this to HTTP 3 compressed, you know, magic binary things. It just shows this for old time's sake, so that it'll be easier to see and be familiar to the user. So okay, I'm going to make a little branch here. Fixed chunk and remove chunk use and expect chunk and expect headers use. It is actually HTTP for HTTP3. Yeah, I can always trim that commit message later. So, okay, back to the test code. Or no. Okay. So basically when we do post from a callback, we call the callback to read data when we know that we can post to the remote server, right? So typically we do that. Yeah, what is HTTP3? HTTP3 is the new HTTP version. So it's due to ship any month now. Well, maybe as said before, early next year, maybe even late this year. We'll see about that. But yes, HTTP3 is very similar to HTTP2 in some regards and very different in some others. It's a completely different, since HTTP3 is done over quick instead of over TCP, it changes a lot of things in the transport level. But when we do post with a callback with regular HTTP, it is sort of, we're waiting for the socket to become readable, you know, so that we know that we can write data to the socket. Then we can call the callback, get data, write it to the socket. And we need to do something similar for HTTP3, but I don't think we can ask if the socket is writable. We need to know from the quick library that it will accept data. So I'm going to switch back to my Firefox here and see if I can switch over to the quiche library. Quick is built on top of UDP in user space, indeed. So Quick is a transport protocol. Quick is the TCP replacement. So we set up the connection with Quick to the host, and when we have the connection set up, we create an HTTP3 stream, on that connection. Well, Speedy is gone since long, so Speedy is deprecated since years, right? Speedy was what became HTTP2. So when HTTP2 came, we forgot about Speedy. But now Quick is the new transport protocol. And then I'm talking about the IETF Quick, not the Google Quick. So keep them apart. The Google Quick that's been going on for a long time is a little bit different. The Google Quick is basically Quick plus HTTP3, more or less, but different. So going forward, we're talking about Quick and HTTP3 on top of it. No love for SCTP, and there are reasons. SCTP really isn't suitable for this. And if you read my book about HTTP3, you'll see I have a separate page about why SCTP wasn't good enough to do what Quick is doing. And this isn't Google anymore. This is IETF, which, well, it includes Google, but there are many, many others involved as well. So, connection setup, I'm going to read the HTTP3. Document, I'm checking out the file. So I'm curious here then, how am I supposed to know when I can send more data? There's this function called body something. Yeah, send body. That's the function. And to complicate matters or confuse me even more, the documentation documents the Rust API, which then isn't exactly like the C API, but similar. So this is Rust code. I think. I don't know Rust, but look. Sending a request. actually. I don't see any API calls to actually figure out if we should send more data. I'm a little bit. I mean, we're in early days, so I'm not sure they have everything in here that we need. Sending and receiving stream data. So I'm a little bit wary that I don't want to just push. I think the quiche's API allows me to push a lot of data, and quiche will just queue it up internally before it sends it. But I don't want that. If I want to send a multi-gigabyte file, I can't just push it all to quiche and wait for it to send it. I need some sort of flow control here. I'm trying to figure out if I can. It's a bit of a disappointment that I didn't get further. But no, I don't think I do. I need to ask about this. Are you here? Are you here, anyone from the quiche team? So I want to know, or I need to sort of know how large the outgoing queue is if I need to fill it up with more data to send. Okay. I think I'll save that and ask them. So instead, I will switch to the other backend. So okay, I fixed the HTTP3 post stuff there. That's good. And I'm switching. I have another command line shortcut that builds curl with the NGTC2 backend for HTTP3. So let it run its little merry course here to rerun configure and tell it to use the other libraries instead. I could also just save two different, or do this in two different directories so that I wouldn't have to rerun configure. But I have so many different configure command lines and everything, so it is actually more convenient for me to do this, so I can just switch off, switch around, and now it says here HTTP3 enabled. And when using the NGTCP2 backend, we also need the NGHTTP3 backend, because that's the quick library and that's the HTTP3 library, so they are two different ones. So if I then, let's rebuild it. And now we don't get the boring SSL build warnings because this doesn't use boring, this uses a patched OpenSSL version. So yep. There, and we can check curl-v, and we can see that it uses NGTCP2 and NGHTTP3. And well, the dev versions 0.1.0 dev, early days. Okay. And if we then retry the Daniel stuff to the quick server, will it work? No. Okay. Useful information. Is it supposed to work? No, not supposed to work. Okay. So here's the same logic with the other backend. It's very similar looking. They actually share some code that I actually copied, so eventually I might be able to clean it up a little bit to make them use the same functions a little bit more than I have done now. But it's a little bit premature to do that. I'm not sure where we'll end up with this. So here you can see it's if zeroed here because I just copied once the key. You see that it says quiche here. So it's the logic is copied from the quiche backend, but of course it doesn't work there. So this is the default one which sends a request without the body. Well, this is an attempt to send the body, if there is one. No, this is end stream. Okay. Sorry. No, I need to go back here and okay. Remove the quiche code. It's not supposed to be there anyway. But get the in this case there is a body, and now we know that NGTCP2 is another library in the NG series, so this is similar to how you do it with HTTP2. So I'm going to look at the code for NGTP2, and well, you can see a striking resemblance here. The top one here is how you do it with NGHTTP2. You submit the request, blah blah blah, and this is how you do it with NGHTTP3. So you can see that it sets a struct here that points out callback, and that is used there, and we should use it below here as well. Yeah, there should be a lot more quiche in this live stream actually. I mean, the actual quiche. So in the NGHTTP2 case, it calls a callback to get data when it wants data. It's a fairly complicated setup, but let's go down that road. So I have my NGTP3 build here. Here's the header file. So here's the prototype for submit request. Pretty much the only documentation we have for NGHTTP3 is the header file. Well, I can also talk to Tatsuhiro, the main author of this, so that's a backup. But I'm trying to not to bother him more than I have to, so I'll read the header file and go by that first. So there's this data reader. That's where we data reader, or pointer to the data reader. And data reader, maybe we can Okay. So data reader, I think data reader is just data reader as a single callback. Data reader read data. Talk about fun names. Maybe I shouldn't call them like the data blah, blah, okay. Let's have them like that. Read function. Callback h3 read function. Yeah. Naming. Okay. Let's call it like that. I just need that callback, and that's callback. Should be one of these ones. Sorry, I'm jumping around. That's the callback I need. Callback prototype. So static int callback h3 read function. Okay. No return statement. Yeah. There's no return statement. Should return 0 if it succeeds, or our callback failure otherwise. Okay. No, we plan to succeed. I'll just mark them all as used so that compiler won't complain. Remove that. So now it builds fine, but now it'll call that and we don't do anything. So I imagine that, oh yes, now I'm getting into the buffer management, because I think I'm giving it a pointer and a data, but so I need to sort of handle that somehow. Invoked when the library asks an application to provide stream data for the stream. The application should store the pointer to data and the data length. They are initialized to null and zero. The application must retain data until they are safe to free. It is notified by act stream data callback. Right, that's the buffer management I talked to someone about. So I just give it a pointer and it tells me when it's done with it. complicated. And then we get an act stream data callback. That's the callback. We don't have any ones. We don't have it set up. It's okay. We needed to give it a buffer and a length. And it will tell us when it's done with it. And we have a user data and we have a stream user data. So I believe when we create the request, this last argument here is the stream user data. So it associates this pointer with the stream, which is handy for us then, because then this is the pointer to the easy handle. So that's the transfers, right? The transfer and the stream are a one-to-one mapping. So when we get something from the stream here, we can figure out that data pointer, which is exactly what we need, because that is the libcurl handle to that stream. But I'm not quite following here. So it will call this function. I'll just rebuild and try it again once, because now I think wrong directory. Oh, maybe this isn't set up to build properly now. Oops. Crap. Managed to kill my Emacs. Okay, new Emacs. Where's that's the quiche lines. This this is my debug makefile for basically all my debugging. So I have, as you can see, a forest of different options here that I am using depending on how I debug stuff. But I don't have the right OpenSSL, do I? Wrong directory, we should add lib to them. Right, and that's the patched OpenSSL version that uses I believe it's there. If I cd to that directory, I have it there. That's the directory I also need to. Complicated. Maybe this will work. There, let's try the OpenSSL lib earlier because it should find it. Wait a minute. ARES. Okay, this isn't OpenSSL amount, this is ARES, but I'm already specifying that. CD. Oh, maybe I can just switch it off. I can just go back to myconf NGTC 2. I'll disable using CARES in my build. Which is a separate name resolver backend other than the default threaded name resolver. But maybe it helps to avoid that. Might be slightly easier. So I'm rebuilding curl without CARES, the CARES backend. It should say, where is it? Resolver POS6 threaded, yes. So we rebuild curl. And we try to rebuild my example code again. Now this is the problem with the SSL library. Oh, I need what? What do I need? What do I need? I thought I specified. libssh2 build NGTC. Where did that end up? Ah, Jesus. So try again. Wrong order of things. So there's an assignment here, and that adds. So can't have the assignment end. So now it worked. Okay, so now it built quite a lot of dependencies. I'm just going to make sure that it, right, not found, not found. So if I try to run it, it won't work because it can't find it can't find either of not the SSL library and none of the HTTP3 libraries. So okay. There we got the that was OpenSSL. Here's the NGHTTP3. Left is now NGTCP2, and it's there. Adding it. Oh, it's a horrible LD library path, but bing, aborted. Fun. And so now we can see that it calls the callback as expected, or as I wanted it to. Now we, oh right, I killed my editor, so I had to reload the file. So callback for h_read function, here it is. Here's the function called when NGTCP2, it's actually NGHTTP3 calls it when it wants data. You want to send data, it calls it send it. So the question is now then, how do we get the data? We call the callback. We call the callback to ask for data. The most naive and simple way would be to just not send any more data until HTTP3 has reported back that it has drained the buffer, which allows us to use just a single buffer all the time. Probably bad for performance. And particularly bad if we do multiplexing, because then we're going to do multiple transfers at the same time that would use... No, they would use one buffer each. Okay. How do we do it for HTTP2? Read. Alright, it happens to just have the data already in a buffer, in the upload buffer. How did it end up there? Complicated. I'm sort of all just dizzy now thinking how this should work. I would imagine that, yeah, this should really call the callback, the libcurl callback. It is usually fill, I don't remember, curl fill read buffer. Yeah. I am trying or working on getting callback based HTTP uploads to work, or to start working over HTTP 3. Right, this is so right, I should actually, it struck me now that I should just get started, should do, because this didn't work either with this backend, so I should make sure that this works first. And in this case I will have a fixed string. So the callback here should return that fixed string. So if, okay, stream user data, Didn't I? Yeah, that's the way I wanted it. Like this. Stream user data is actually a pointer to our easy handle, like that. And then we know things about the easy handle, and then we can, for example, I'm going to check the quiche backend. I don't remember. Post fields. Yes, that's the name. So if we have this pointer set to anything, we have the data to post in a pointer, and that's the easy case, right? We don't need to call any callbacks. The data is already here. So boom. Then data. Hello, here's the data. Get it and run. And that's the data len. And that's the file size. Yeah, you can if you just build curl right now on git master, and of course yeah, if you follow that instruction I showed you before, if you go to the HTTP 3 page in the curl wiki, you can, and then build it with either of the backends, and you can run curl to do HTTP 3 stuff. Normal get works fine. So if you there are a bunch of servers listed there, just go there, do curl on those servers. You can even use the the SSL keylog thing if you want to use Wireshark to look at the traffic. And if you want to use Wireshark to look at the traffic, you want Wireshark from Git, I believe. I mean, Wireshark has support for, I think, most of the latest Quick and HTTP 3, but you need to be on the pretty much bleeding edge of Wireshark to do that. But yeah, so since everything Quick is encrypted, you want the secrets, so you need the secrets to be able to decrypt the traffic if you want to parse it. That's why you want to do the SSL keylog approach. So then you could basically snoop everything with Wireshark, make it decrypt the traffic and save it unencrypted, or I don't exactly know how you do it, but yeah. So if postfields is set, yeah, I wish I knew why I'm not permitted, but I don't know, and nobody will tell me. So I have just accepted the fact that I won't go to the US anytime soon. Well, HTTP 3 is kind of different, right? Since it's not HTTP 1, everything is easy, and in HTTP 3 there's never any unencrypted state of anything, because Quick encrypts everything. So there's no it's not that easy for me to extract just everything unencrypted, because Quick is never unencrypted. Quick is always encrypted. So no, but I'm sure if you have ideas or suggestions on how we could make it easier or simpler, let me know. And also, since we're using these libraries, they certainly know. Both of these libraries are actually sort of socket independent, right? So they give me the data to send, so I can actually just save all the data somewhere else than just send it to the socket. But they encrypt it, since the other side will expect things to be encrypted. So I don't know. If you have ideas on how to make it easier to debug and analyze things, let me know. So upload left. P flags, is this I could set the fin thing, right? And I killed the mice. I have to reload them. I'm used to having all the files I need already loaded. Read data. End of file. So here's what I say. Here's the data. Here's end of file. Kind of fun. I wonder if that will just work out of the box, or Oh. So regarding then me not going to the US, so I think I'm actually very soon 490 days, so it's not that only 10 days from 500 days since I applied for a visa. Well, actually I applied before, but that was 490 days since I was at the US Embassy and did my final steps to do the application. And I just a while ago I checked my status on the visa site, and it says this: administrative processing. It can take a while, several weeks, and last updated April last year. So yeah, they must be working really hard on my application. Boom, 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 boom. That's the HB3 page in the wiki. So back to my little test here then. So I built it. I'm going to try Daniel test stuff to quiche. Boom. Huh. So now this made a very sort of the most simple case of doing posts with NGTC2 work. So it works at the same level that the quiche backend works then. That's good, at least. Well, I've been allowed into the US very many times and I didn't change anything, so I don't know why they would suddenly refuse me to go there. I've been in the US for, I guess, more back and forth for 20 years or so before they suddenly banned me or not accepted me, so I don't know. All those theories about why they've done this, I mean, they're all just fine, but saying things that it might be because blah 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 and that blah 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 has existed for 20 years, I don't know. Why would they suddenly do that? Maybe they did. Maybe it was just me and someone else with my name being a bad guy. I have no idea. And it really doesn't matter. They won't tell me, and I can't do anything to change the facts. So. It did start after Trump was elected, but I mean, it's not that Trump started immigration complications in the world, so we're having immigration complications everywhere. And I don't think it got easier after that president got elected. So then it works with this easy case. Good. I don't think you can explain my situation. Because nobody knows my situation apart from perhaps some persons in some sort of immigration authority in the US. If we don't have post field set, we do it the then we need to call the callback. That one. trying to come up with the best way to deal with this. Well, HTTP2 is, I would say, complex, yes, but HTTP2 is certainly going to stick around for a long time. So I'm sure that, and HTTP2 is also going to be a performance boost for a lot of sites. Just switch it on. So maybe, but in most cases, if you don't want to care about how things are transferred over the wire, you maybe not need to know the details about HTTP2. You can be happy with just knowing that HTTP is still this sort of request and headers and bodies and stuff like that. They're the same. The headers will be the same way, and headers and methods and bodies and blah blah blah. It will be the same over HTTP3 as well. You don't have to bother about how the bits are sent over the wire. So maybe you can always just be blissfully ignorant about how it works exactly under the hood. That's why we have libraries and tools and stuff to abstract that away from humans. But if you want to know how it is transferred over the wire, I can recommend the HTTP2 in Action book if you want to read up about HTTP2 in a very detailed way. There you can see it then. Happy now? So HTTP2, oh right, let me just show you. I actually have the book here. So it's actually, here's the book. You should try it out. That's the one I think is the book if you want to get into HTTP2 details and actually goes into HTTP or quicker HTTP3 a little bit. Well, you can also read RFC 7540, and that also exists actually in a fairly readable version. If you want to read the RFC, I recommend this version of it on the HTTP-WG webpage, because it's actually like this. It's actually rendered. I think it's the most easily readable rendered version of the HTTP2 spec on the httpwg.org webpage, which happens to be the IETF working group homepage, pretty much. Anyway, I'm back to my little upload thing here. So back to I don't think it is fair to say that HTTP2 was a Google child. Well, it was a Google child in the way that Google invented a lot of things that created HTTP2, and in this way HTTP3 is also a Google child because it's also the result of a Google experiment and Google work. So there's a lot of Google behind it, but it's not, Google doesn't control what the IETF does or who participates in the IETF and everyone who makes this into a protocol standard. So if Google had been alone in wanting something like this, they would have been alone, and nobody would have cared other than Google, and they would have run off and done their own thing, which they have for a long time. But in order to make it into a standard, like HTTP 2 was made into a standard, HTTP 3 is going to be, you need much more than just Google being interested and invested. And just look at the internet today, right? So if you look at HTTP 2, quite a lot more than Google are running HTTP 2. Out of the top 1,000 sites, almost half is nowadays on HTTP 2, which should say that most sites are actually seeing the benefits of going to HTTP 2. And it's a similar thing with HTTP 3. HTTP 3 is not as obviously much better than HTTP 2. I mean, HTTP 2 was pretty much always a step better than HTTP 1 for most sites, for most users. HTTP 3 is not as, it's not as a clear winner. And it's a bigger investment to go there. It's a higher bar to sort of get over to get it there. So it's a different situation. But behind I have this fun little page somewhere in a presentation I have about HTTP 3, about all the participants in the IETF working group for Quick, and that's basically all the big players, the browsers, the big CDNs, and a few other big network players. So HTTP 3 has pretty solid support of a lot of big companies. Yeah, I think HTTP 2 in itself isn't that complicated. It is more complicated than HTTP 1 because you had to add streams and everything, so it became more complicated, and because HTTP 1 is simpler. But it's not that complicated. I think for me, for curl, HTTP 2 is slightly complicated because everything in curl works the same way, right? So you still work with URLs and everything, and it just transparently uses whatever protocol version it can find. So internally in curl, it's a little bit hairy at times. And you can actually also say that HTTP 3 is also making it even simpler than HTTP 2, because in HTTP 3 doesn't need to handle streams. HTTP 3 is just single stream, right? Or it's not single stream, but they don't do multiplexing because multiplexing is done by Quick. So HTTP layer can ignore multiplexing, which makes it easier and easier to understand the HTTP 3 part. But then the transport part is much more complicated in HTTP 3. So yeah, streams are actually good in many ways. I mean, TCP-wise, going with one connection and many streams is of course also much better, because you can get up to speed much better with TCP. So you get past the slow start period, and and congestion-wise, it's better with one connection than many. So there are a lot of reasons why going with streams and a single connection is good. In a lossy network situation, on the other hand, it's bad, because then lossy packet, when you lose a packet, you affect many streams at once. So yeah, but that was known when HTTP 2 was made, and that's one reason why Quick was made. And it was made this soon after HTTP 2. Exactly. Bad. It's not really bad, but yeah, you get the TCP header line blocking. So if you lose a packet with, if you just have one connection with TCP and you lose a packet, you affect everything on that TCP connection, right? So if you have 100 streams over TCP, 100 streams get affected by one lost packet because of TCP. So with Quick, when you lose one packet, you will only affect the streams that are actually in that lost packet, which is then typically 1 or 2 streams. So 99 or however many other streams can continue while that lost packet is being retransmitted. Or actually, packets aren't retransmitted in Quick, but the data is retransmitted. Make post fields set posts work. Yeah. Complicated way of phrasing it, but yeah. I don't think I'm going to actually continue on my post stuff here right now, because it feels like I need to wrap my brains around how to do this, and it feels I'm incapable of doing that while sitting on the stream talking at the same time. So it is a little bit more. I need to wrap my brains around how to handle the buffering situation and the buffer situation here, and the callbacks and everything in NGTC v2. So yeah, I'm going to create a pull request out of this to just fix the NGTC v2 thing first. Switch over the Firefox here. We go to that one. I'm making a pull request out of it so that I know that I don't break anything with my HTTP changes here. I would say that the Twitch chat actually it takes away my attention from whatever I'm doing. So all of a sudden someone says something completely different that I'm working on in the chat, and I'm starting going off in a completely different direction, and then forgot what I was doing in my debugger or whatever. But I also think that this is sort of the point with this streaming thing. It's not actually to just see me sitting fiddling in GDB all the time, but I can actually have a little conversation back and forth with whatever we want to talk about or do today. So okay, another little thing I could instead switch over to do that. Oh, right, I wanted to check on this. I forgot about. Here's a little feature that I like. Maybe you've seen this before, but libcurl is a fun option that, you know, it writes. If you do like this, it'll do the request and save C code in that file that will reproduce the request I did. So now I'll call it sample.c. In the file sample.c, there's a C code generated from that command line, and it should reproduce whatever we just did. And look at that. That was what I wanted to see. It's actually correct, but I don't want to use that hard-coded number. I want to use the define in here. So I'm going to see if I can fix that now. Switch back to the master branch so that I can... No, because the master branch can't post with NGTC2. So okay, back to the post branch. To libs, where do we... Too much source code. So this is the directory for the curl tool source code. Just trying to remember where the code is that generates that stuff. Oh, I think it's here. Version, it's got HTTP version something something. No, as dash libcurl isn't based on a parser thing. I mean, the parser is just a command line parser, right? And then it just for every option it says sets is only also generates the corresponding libcurl way to set that option. So it's actually internally, if you want to see it, I can show you. Let me. Okay, in tool operate, there's a lot of, for example, here's a list of options that libcurl sets for a particular transfer. Basically, it goes on like this, you know. Here's the option, here's the value, and we do this for a lot of different libcurl options. So for example, if libcurl tool sets the curl proxy option, that's a string, right? It comes from this struct. Then there's this function called mySetOptString. Okay, wait a minute. I'll just reload that one. And then that's a macro that will go into this tool setOpt. And in this function that sets an option, it will also here generate the little curl code for the corresponding option. So it'll set the option and generate the code for libcurl to do it. Complicated way maybe, but it's not that complicated once it works. And in the end, of course, it has generated a full libcurl code that sets the same options that curl does. So that's how dash libcurl works. So, but now I wanted to make sure that when I rerun it, sample should now say, yeah, exactly. Now it's fixed it so that it actually uses that symbolic name instead of the hard, the number in the code. It makes it much less readable. So I'll just submit that as a separate pull request. Git checkout, a new branch, and let's call it HTTP curl. make libcurl use. So let's make that another pull request because it seems it's very specific. So pull request number 2. Badoom. A lot of those tiny little details, fixing HB3 and things. Sure, it's one thing to do it all in protocol level, but there are a lot of these tiny things. And a lot of code actually, previously assumed that we did HTTP 1 and then HTTP 2, so a lot of codes basically knows that if you're not HTTP 1, it is HTTP 2, and that's no longer the case. And now we have these multitude of different HTTP versions, and also we can go from 1 to 3. We don't have to actually use number 2. So we have a lot of those assumptions in the code. So it'll take a while to polish all of that away and fix all of those things. But we're coming there, and that's also why it's good to have this early, have it marked experimental. We can just keep it polishing. Yeah, where was I? Back to my little Emacs and terminal thing. Okay, so I've been going on for a while, but now I'm going to been thinking about this for a while, and I think I'm going to switch over to my quiche build and see what I can do about the OpenSSL build. I'm a bit unhappy with the build warnings for OpenSSL when we build with boring SSL, simply because it means that I have to switch off, treat warnings as error. And that's never really good. I want to build everything warning free to as large extent as possible. And I can do that when I use this build. So figure I'll dive in. These are just 4 warnings right now. I should have them if def somehow, or type def some magic. I actually get them twice because of reasons. I get them twice because in the build setup we can build for unit tests, and when I build for unit tests I build everything again with magic so that I can build unit things that so I don't hide internal symbols and so on. Never mind. Yeah, I just perfectly love having warnings as errors because it's much easier to actually never let any warnings slip through. And I also want it I want the CI builds to also have warnings as errors so that the CI builds properly fail hard on misuse and abuse of functions and so on. So I want to fix this. Warning, conversion from long unsigned to uint for error. Yep. So this is changed in OpenSSL. So I wonder if I should... Okay, let's just dive in. Trying to come up with I should have a prefix maybe, or maybe not, or Okay, let's call it like this to start with, and let's see if that works, and if it doesn't, I'll do something else. So I can do like this, yeah, here. So yeah, I'm going to fix compiler warnings that I get when I build with boring SSL, because boring SSL has changed a few APIs slightly as compared to OpenSSL. So if OpenSSL is boring, then typedef uint32, really typing crappy u like that, not define, I need typedef. And if it's OpenSSL, it was an unsigned long, right? Unsigned long. So will this work? I wanted to try it out first. Maybe? No, that just created a much worse situation. Okay, so maybe it wasn't that easy. Maybe I should do something else. SSL error. Oh, right, then, because so from size T. In curl we build with pedantic, or rather we won't accept any merges that break pedantic. So yeah, we use pedantic. It will actually, when I build with enable debug option, I can show you. We have a fairly extensive list of compiler options to make sure that we don't do anything stupid. So if I can just take a look. Those are the picky compiler options. So pretty much warn on as much as as many things as possible to make sure that we actually stick to the style we want to use and stick to as portable C as possible, and make sure that it has the highest chance of working everywhere. So SSL error T wasn't really a good way to do that, so maybe I'll go back to unsigned long. Conversion from size T. Okay, at least remove that. Okay, let's see if I can just get them all to vanish, and then I can work on sort of improving the methods. Normals conversion from size T. So it actually wants a size T. Def OpenSSL is boring. So that's that we use with OpenSSL, and here's what we use with boring. CTX options, long, and what did it complain about? Long int to uint. If the open is boring, okay, more and more cases, because then we, of course, there's this function that we have, that one. It accepts a long. So what if I do like this? Perhaps this could be crazy. I'm trying to get rid of compiler warnings when I build libcurl with boring SSL instead of OpenSSL. Right now, I can't say that it's actually going forward. Let's see where we. All right, the other way around. Ooh, look at that, only 2 left. Escape anonymous. Near victory, yes. Nums. Okay. Let's try it. But this will trigger other errors too, because now I is wrong. Conversion from. Okay, so that function also. Let's do it like this then. Type def numsert t type def it was there. Numsert t numserts. But that function It's not in this file even. Ah! No, that's supposed to be an int. So I'll just typecast that one instead. Look, no warnings, no errors. So okay, wasn't that horrible. So this is the change necessary to build warning free. Yeah, this is really... I have sort of started on this before and I've given up just because of this, but now at least it builds warning free. So I also wanted to fix the boring SSL build then in Travis and make sure that it actually, let's see, boring. I'm thinking there's a place where it doesn't use. I really don't like working with the YAML things of the Travis and AppVeris because I can never really get used to how they work. So basically just blindly trial and error until it seems to work. So no background. Yes, this no valgrind, and does not enable W error. Let's see, let's do that. Boom. There. yeah, that's a good fix, I hope. So let's create a pull request out of that as well. Pull request number 3 for today. Badoom. So I've changed the Travis build for boring SSL as well, so Travis will verify that this actually also works going forward, which I think is good. Okay. 2 hours into this. So I didn't get that far with HTTP posts and puts, but okay, I did a little bit. You can actually do the simple. The command line put works now with both. So command line curl -d blah 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 you can do, and that's a good start, I think. I need to work on the callback based posts for both backends. The NGTC2 one, I have an idea how to do it. I just need to wrap my brain around the buffer management. And the quiche one, I need to talk to the quiche team and see what they think about the API for it. Or rather the API around, not just flooding it with everything at once. I think I'm going to let that be for now, unless you have any particular requests or ideas that I should dive into right now. This is the curl webpage. Maybe you didn't see that, or maybe you don't care, but I actually asked about input around. I was working on figuring out what to do with on the roadmap going forward. So basically, I sent this email out asking for input on how to act on what to do with the curl roadmap going forward. So if you're into curl and you want to give me your input and your ideas of what I should do next on curl, I asked about these 10 different features and how they should be graded, like this. Blah blah blah, grade each one of these 10 ones from wouldn't use it to I want it immediately. And then of course a free text thing here that you can say I want to see this happen in curl right now. Because I haven't run out of things to do. Not at all. There are always things to do. The to-do list is always pretty full. Here's the to-do list on the website. So there's a lot of things to do, but I wanted to just coordinate with everyone, what you think is good, and to make sure that how to prioritize things, basically. If there's a feature that a lot of people rather want, maybe I could do that earlier than the feature only I want. So that's it. Yeah, there's a lot of things in the to-do. There's a lot, I bet there are almost 100 things. There's also the known bugs page, which is very similar to the to-do. Yeah, I'm actually not at all sure about the pipelining for POP3 and SMTP. That's sometimes some of those to-do issues, they have been there for a while and mostly lingering around. I'm not sure that all of them are suitable. So the pipelining for POP3 and SMTP, I'm not at all convinced. I'm not a really I don't use POP3 and SMTP that much, so I really can't say for sure, but I would imagine that would also introduce problems. I mean, there will be servers that don't deal with it correctly, so there will have to be a lot of annoying, fallback code for when it doesn't work. And like in the HTTP case, that turns out really ugly and nasty, all that fallback in case of when crap happens, how do you handle that transparently and nicely? So no, I don't think pipelining for POP3 and SMTP is a priority. And it's also slightly different. For HTTP, it was much more of a bandwidth benefit. For POP3 and SMTP, it's so many back and forth anyway. Yeah, I think I am. Yeah, well, there's certainly tech debts in the tests area, but I would say that the biggest problem with tests is probably not the debts or just old rubbish. I think the biggest problem is that we have areas that we don't test at all. We have a few protocols that we don't have any tests for, and testing protocols against real servers, sort of real, is complicated, and I'd rather avoid that. It's much better. So some of the protocols, I think LDAP and a few others, we don't have any tests at all, so it's easy to break. So yeah, it's not ideal. The good part is that we actually, but the parts we have the most users of and the parts that we use the most, we have the most tests for. So it's not a terrible situation. It's actually pretty decent. Oh, and now for some reason we switched to Firefox again. Blah blah blah. Where am I? There, no bugs. Okay. But sure, there's no lack of places where we can improve curl. There's basically no place that is in a perfect shape, right? Or spotless and nothing to improve. We can basically go everywhere and fix things. Yeah, and I also, sure, we can do things with servers, but I would actually rather improve things to do more tests without servers completely. Write up things, more unit tests that can work completely without servers, so that we can control things even more tightly, exactly which byte in which order, and remove timing, that we get timing problems and changes that we do when we go over GCP and stuff. Windows warnings. Those are always interesting. Sometimes it's more complicated to do the Windows warnings because I never built on Windows myself, so it's more of a shooting things in the dark. Yes, I know. I use the CI tests like that all the time. Since I'd never built on Windows myself, I tend to just use the CI builds to make sure that they actually work somewhat. I have this, I can show you. I'll get into these warnings as well. Why not? I have this fix here for making sure that we actually should start use .curlrc and .netrc on Windows as well. We've been using the underscore version of them before because of some old legacy reasons from 20 years ago. And I've basically just kept on pushing updates to that because I don't test on build on Windows myself, and I've just done a billion of these tests, and now I think it actually works on Windows. I have some annoying codacy, whatever it's supposed to be pronounced, is a it's a static code analyzer that is totally useless. I don't think it ever has found any real problem, but it finds this false positive because we have if left code, so it says and I can't remove it, so it'll keep warning. And this is just seems like on FreeBSD we occasionally get this build failure. I don't know why. I don't think it's actually related to my change here. So okay, back to the build warning. Comparison between signed and unsigned. That's an unsigned. Or is that an unsigned or is it a signed? That's a Windows funny thing. I would imagine that it's unsigned. So this is for Windows SSPI. Maybe. And 269 there as well. So which build is this? Sorry, I'm switching back and forth between the I'm going to just do one build fix and see that it actually makes a difference, and then go slowly until the others later. I'm gonna take a break from my stream now. I'm just gonna make a pull request out of this. Oops, I did it wrong here. Didn't push properly. I was supposed to do that. And then I'm back on Firefox, and then I can do. So sorry. I should do a new pull request of that. No. Pressing the wrong buttons. Kaboom. Okay. I actually did this pull request also before I started the stream this morning, so actually I'm on 5 pull requests today. I think that's pretty good. So let's see what it said about that. Yeah, that's the FreeBSD failure again. The same one, 1061. Okay, let's check out the 1061. We can download, right, okay. 1061. It's such a weird thing. Why would this particular test fail on one of the FreeBSD machines? Check generated. Check expected. Looks like it has some crap. Looks like wrapped somehow. Rerun and see if that changes anything. Anyway, that's 4 pull requests in the stream, 1 pull request before the stream started. Some other stuff that I'm working on. That one I'm going to merge, I think, in a few secs. Maybe I can do it right now, a live merge on the stream, so that I got that one as well. So back to the Firefox again. So this is the fix to make sure that we get a unified treatment of curl RC and net RC files. So they are in the Bagler curl RC branch. So I can go here and I can just check out that branch. I usually just rebase it first to make sure that it's on the latest, and then I make sure that it says closes 4230, because that's the issue that it closes, 4230. Just want to make sure that it says co-authored by Steve, because he wrote the first version. I always work on branches, so this is a branch, so I never do anything. The only thing I do on the main branch is merge my feature branches and push them. Well, I can also upgrade when someone else has pushed it to the main branch, but I never ever work. Actually, well, yeah, I shouldn't say that. I do that sometimes too, but and typically I work in feature branches for whatever I do. So I always have different branches, and I push. So I do pull requests from the branches, and then once the branches are fine, I merge them into master. So this is a branch called Bagler curl RC, Windows. So then I switch back to master, and I merge the branch into master like this, boom. So the commits are here, and then I push them on the master like this, boom. And then my branch is of no use anymore, this branch, so I delete it. Because I have so many branches, I don't want to have things lingering around on GitHub too, since I didn't use the merge button on GitHub because it doesn't do what I want. So it now says that I have a dangling branch, but I delete it here too. Gone. And now it says here closed in, because it's been merged now in this commit on GitHub. So if we check the code here now, we can check the commits. Bam, and those are the two new ones that I just pushed. I actually don't have my own fork. This is actually, I actually run those. I do all my branches in the main Git repo, so, but I prefix them always with bagger, which is my username on GitHub, to make sure that it's visible that those are my branches. If you go to curl, you can see here branches being, in my case, I can view my branches here, view more of your branches. So these are all, if they're named bagger something, they are created by me or maintained by me. So these are all branches in the main curl Git repository that I feel responsible for. So, and most, yeah, all of them are actually associated, all of them except one are associated with a pull request. Sometimes if I don't remember to delete it, like this is actually already handled, I should just delete it, so gone, boom. Otherwise the other ones are work in progress things, or at least things that used to be in progress, I don't know, like HSTS rebase, I don't know, 2 months ago, maybe. And some of the other ones here, 9 months ago, last year, they're more or less actually old. I should probably delete them. I'll just leave them a little while longer, just in case. So we're back to the code. Yeah. Pull requests. And since we have quite a lot of CI builds and work, this set of pull requests they're going to take a while until they're complete. It is going to take many hours for each, so maybe by tonight I can start fixing them, because obviously I have screwed up on most of them, so I will add my fixes so that they will work on all those builds, and then as soon as they build green I will merge them, I think, unless someone objects or come with review remarks or whatever. Yeah, I could mention that we're also in a feature freeze period for curl, so we don't actually merge new features, we only merge bug fixes. So I should just make sure that all of these are considered bug fixes, because if it's not a bug, we don't merge it until after the release, when we open the feature window again to merge features. But now I'm going to head down to my kitchen, raid my fridge, and see if there's anything for me to have for lunch. Really, the worst part about working alone from home is the lunch isn't always top-notch. But it's also very convenient to just take my 13 steps down the stairs and have a lunch. Okay, I'll see you in the IRC in the afternoon instead, and I'll try to get some more stuff on the post for NGTC2 over HTTP3, and we'll see what happens. See you. I think I will be back. I think maybe I'll go back and maybe stream every Tuesday at this time or so. Maybe some sort of schedule. We'll see how it works out. I'll let you know. Goodbye for now.